What is buffer time? What is buffer time? Is what buffer time?
That is a very good question. What is buffer time, my buffer timers? And I'm so happy to see you here today as we talk about Parth, Ferengi's Heart Place. But before we get started, we're going to do a very short trek analysis of the final one and overall. Yeah. So let's go around and introduce ourselves real quick. I'm Dustin from Best of Trek, Worst of Trek.
I'm Lieutenant Commander Eve Zellick, Starfleet International.
Hi, I'm Dell, and I'm an UMOC specialist.
Are you going to give us a live demo?
Maybe later.
My name is Vanessa, and I host a YouTube channel called I Love Bed Star Trek.
And you're going to host today as we talk about the Lower Decks episode. But before we get into that, let's touch on this phenomenon that has been the very short treks. Now that they've come to an end, will you miss them? And which one was your favorite?
None.
That's too bad.
It's kind of, I watched them for completion's sake, but honestly, it was like a fight to the bottom of the pile, like a race to the bottom. They were all like, I was hoping for more, considering the short treks we got before were much better.
I wouldn't want more, and I wouldn't miss them, but there's part of me that's really interested in what they would come up with next, because it started at such a low point that it started to build near the end. I really like the last episodes, and I know I'm like in the minority, but I would just be interested to see if they could bring their humor level to a place that's more appropriate.
I actually am maybe in the minority here, but I thought Worst Contact was pretty freaking hilarious. I just saw it because I wonder if like Vulcans looked at us that way when they first met us, like these disgusting, unsanitary, very not knowledgeable type of people. But I don't know. There's something about puerile humor that like I feel like, yes, they're speaking my language.
On the thought of the Vulcans, I'm now thinking about like the scene. I'm thinking about Zephram Cochrane in First Contact and how he looks like when Voyager first encounters Neelix, and the first thought I had was he needs a bath.
Like and it reminded me also of like Ren and Stimpy, where they had like the nose goblins under the bed. When they back up and there's like this wall of boogers. It's just terrifyingly disgusting. Like also like I know that this may be a minority opinion, but I thought that this blooper reel that Spock was showing at the holiday party showed like a deep misunderstanding of humor that seems to be in line with Spock, but just drawn out into this exaggerated space a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was like silly. I thought it was fine. Do I think it's like something I'm gonna miss? Especially not particularly. No. I thought it was a fun idea.
I just kind of wish we'd have had more short treks that were along the lines of like The Trouble with Edward, and I can't remember the title of the one where the one new ensign was being put through that test where they have to face their deepest fear and stuff like that. Like I was hoping for stuff that would kind of flesh things out a little more, like fill in some gaps and some holes in the Trekverse.
This wasn't about that. And yeah, I agree with you. I would really like to see some more just regular short treks. But this was, and they even told us in the beginning, it's not canon. It's just here for fun. We're just commemorating TAS. And this episode in particular, the Walk Don't Run, I liked it until it got to the song. I love self-actualized humor. It was a great start, great try, and then it just kind of went sideways for me. My favorite was the next to the last episode of the season.
I guess like knowing now that it's the last episode of Very Short Treks, like it sort of comes together meaning wise, because I'm like, why are they breaking the fourth wall? Like, what is the goal here? Only the holodeck one was watchable. The rest just did not work. I recall someone a week or two comparing it to TV Funhouse, except it probably made those not want to watch TAS. Sure. Yeah, I don't really see how this like is meant to pull a new audience into TAS, honestly.
If we're gonna compare it to TV Funhouse, I would have loved to see Kirk and Spock as the ambiguously gay duo. That's a missed opportunity.
I mean, they're not that ambiguously gay.
Yeah, but
honestly.
that would
That's
be why
Garrick and
it's
Bashir.
funny to
Yeah.
me.
I mean, I never like. I'll be honest. Like I've said it before, I don't really get the whole like Kirk and Spock gay thing because Kirk is such a Lothario, and I mean, he was busy plowing every woman across the galaxy.
He's on the DL, baby.
But and I kind of wonder because of the way Vulcans are. Okay, now you got me thinking. Del, thanks for that. Me thinking is dangerous. You got me thinking, how would Vulcans actually take the concept of LGBT? You literally just popped that in my head now. Because, I mean, we've seen that Vulcans are extremely racist to other species. And they do tend to be fairly closed-minded because of logic. So now I have to wonder, like, are there gay Vulcans? You made me think. This is not
that-
good.
I would guess, I would have to ask the question, like, is it logical to dislike somebody because of how they are?
But for Vulcans, they consider like coupling to be to produce offspring. For them, it's literally strictly for reproductive purposes. That's why I'm kind of wondering how they would approach it.
Otherwise, Ponfar would be really weird because the whole idea is to take a mate, not a lover or a partner. And so even if I was living in like a gay relationship or whatever, and then Ponfar happened and I had to go meet up with some dude, like that I could see as a plot line. But I don't know if like I don't know. I don't want to make a decision either way, basically.
Plus, there's kind of the implication that only the males go through Ponfar. We've never seen a female Vulcan go through Ponfar. And in Voyager, when Vorik does, he forces Ponfar on B'Elanna, which they said is how it works. So that's why I have to really wonder, like, because for Vulcans,
we did actually see a faux Ponfar for T'Pol. It was like an early onset thing because of other circumstances, but she did hit Ponfar.
Yeah,
that was the worst.
That was the worst.
You're not wrong.
That was awful. But yeah, now I'm wondering, like, seriously, how would Vulcans approach that? Because for them, they don't pair up for the sake of a relationship or love or romance. For them, it's literally they have such a overwhelming urge to mate. So,
I would quote T'Pol and Trip as an argument to that, in that she really wants a partnership with Trip.
Yeah, but they showed that she was unbalanced by the Trellium D and everything else throughout the series. Like, she went through like a lot of things that totally messed with her head.
That's true.
All right. Back to the very short treks. I'm not going to miss these as a whole. It was a fun little experiment. I think we got 1.5 good episodes out of it, and that's that.
I have to say, the reason I liked the last one is because I grew up as a Josie and the Pussycats fan. Woo! And it totally had that vibe. Like, we're going to have a plot, and then we're all going to end in a song. I also really liked that they used TOS sound effects to create the music they were singing to.
I dug that.
I thought that was a really interesting and creative idea, and how to merge that in so it sounds natural. And also, Tendi can sing.
I will keep my comments brief because you all know me and music. I could rant all day about the music in Star Trek and how they do it. I will say at least a song and number at least fit Very Short Treks a lot better than Subspace Rhapsody.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I will say that. Like it at least fit the series. It fit it fit that show better than Strange New Worlds.
I agree.
I yeah, I disagree there. I don't want to make it a whole thing,
No,
but
it's
like
okay.
I just like the part where Scotty's drumming and holding a conversation at the same time. It's just
That's a skill.
the and like the arguments that they had, like, oh, at least the whites of my eyes are colored in, yours are just black dots on skin. Like, I liked that they sort of
I did like that.
pointed out the animation issues in TAS.
I wish they'd pushed that one step further, though, and addressed the fact that Uhura's eyes are just her skin color, and it's weird in
Yeah.
TAS. It's always
See, I was
bothered
waiting
me.
for in that conversation when they were comparing each other to maybe see a Prodigy character show up and be like, "I look like I'm real."
That's fair.
Prodigy, no, they would be, I look like I'm Star Wars.
Hmm.
So there's one last little thing I wanted to talk about before we move on to Lower Decks. Gannon, if you're out there watching, thanks for pointing out that we are going to get, I guess, a Fortnite skin as the as part of this participation with Cudi.
Cudi.
Cudi? I don't know. Sure.
Yes.
Can someone tell me who that is? Because I think I would have a more informed opinion.
Rapper.
I want to be the old.
An
I'm going to admit to being the old
influencer.
person this year.
Oh,
so.
God. Don't even say influencer. Up here, that's like,
Well,
yeah.
it's basically what you can call them in this circumstance, because there's things like Star Wars and Fortnite that get like they've got a whole actual licensing deal you can go on right now. You can buy Obi-Wan Kenobi and Rey and Stormtroopers. It's in the store, but this is like, it's like a backdoor way of getting it Star Trek into it, because it's not actually Star Trek officially licensing it, but it's him licensing himself and the Star Trek brand. It's weird. The promotion.
I smell a
There's gonna be
potential
like a letter
lawsuit.
jacket. Either way, do you guys think it's just a cash grab to sell something like this, or is it just something fun for entertainment? I'm going with fun for entertainment.
50-50. Because I have so many students who play Fortnite, so I'm going to say 50-50. Part cash grab, because let's face it, that's what influencers are after, is cash. And they'll jump on any bandwagon they think will get them cash. I don't have a good opinion of most influencers. And I think it's also a little bit fun because maybe he's a fan, but yeah, he's not doing it just as a fun fan thing. There's cash. It's got to be about the cash. It's all about the Benjamins.
So the reason I think it's for fun, there was a period
Vanessa,
in my
muted.
Yeah.
I got thrown off track. The reason I thought it was fun. I'm sorry, I don't remember what I was going to say.
I'm sorry. I just noticed Vanessa was like talking, but it wasn't showing sound. So
Yeah,
you're muted, babe.
you're muted.
Vanessa,
you're
you're
muted.
Or
muted.
something. I don't think
You're
she's
muted. I can read your lips, but I can't hear you.
It's not even
Your
a regular
lips are
mute.
moving.
So
Your lips are moving.
Oh, this is what I was going to say. I think it's fun because there was a point in my life where I was working for a big tech company, helping them create basically another Second Life. And so I saw a lot on the back end of that sort of thing, even though the company eventually went bankrupt. You can guess who I'm talking about. They used to have a very popular messenger app. And I think that's something I would have voted for, would be like, let's throw in a nondescript Star Trek uniformed character just for fun. It's sort of like the people who go to the Ren Fair in their Star Trek uniforms.
It's funny you picked
yeah,
the
let me
Ren Fair.
shoot a
Yeah, Gannon, if you
an
know
invite
more,
to Gannon
I'm
over here.
interested.
Hold on.
Same. I actually have enjoyed Kid Cudi's music quite a lot for a long time. I haven't been as big of a fan of his newer stuff, but I really do find it interesting, this sort of cross synergistic sort of marketing ploy between Star Trek, Fortnite, and Kid Cudi's new album Insano. It makes me interested honestly. So I think that's like cash grab, though it may be, because we live in a capitalist society and we live in a society, blah, blah, blah. So yes, it's meant to make money. That's most things. But I just, it makes me interested to want to hear this song. There's also like clothing attached to it, which it looks, as far as I'm aware, pretty true to canon. So I enjoy when somebody outside of the Star Trek universe sort of uses it as an inspiration. So I'm okay with it.
I actually
got
had to
me to
Google who
update
this
my
guy
Fortnite.
was.
Because I want it. I want the skins just for fun. Even though
I
haven't played
honestly
yet.
had to Google who this guy was because that's how important he is in Canada. Like, yeah, I even asked some of my friends and they're like, who? Like, so I'm guessing he's a bigger deal south of the border than north.
Gannon, are you with us? Did you have something to say?
With a name like
Maybe.
Gannon, gotta be a Zelda fan.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
So something that's weird is that I'm on my like headphones right now and I can hear you guys through my speakers. It's a little bit weird. So if you hear some playback, I'll just mute my mic if it's annoying.
Yep. So far,
But-
you're okay.
So anyways, usually I'm just a viewer to these streams, but I wanted to pop in and share two opinions. Normally I'm totally drunk watching football, so I don't want to actually join in and talk, but I really wanted to share my feelings on this collab because from a perspective of a young viewer watching Star Trek, I think this is the weirdest decision ever. It's the most out of touch. Am I allowed to curse? It's the most out of touch shit
Go
ever.
ahead.
And on top of that, like Kid Cudi might have been popular with the youth maybe 5 years ago, but in the past 3 years, his career has just been kind of going downhill. He's been making some downright bad music to the point where people are making fun of him. And I just went to the Hype Beast post, the promotion about this Star Trek collaboration, and Hype Beast is, where a lot of young people who enjoy hip hop culture and streetwear, they follow that account for sure. And I went down to the comments. Nobody is excited about this. This is not going to bring in a single new viewer. It's very strange. And I don't know if you guys saw the jacket that they previewed. I think it looks terrible.
did.
Like, I think it looks like Walmart clothing. Like, I really don't think it was made by a professional person who cares about streetwear. And I think that Kid Cudi is maybe even exaggerating his passion for Star Trek to cash out on this. But yeah, all in all, I don't think it's a good idea. I think they're wasting their time and money that could be spent on producing, Star Trek television.
Do you know any more about how this license works? Because it's not an official license from like Paramount to Epic Games. It's a license from Kid Cudi.
It's very
To Epic.
strange. I have no idea how it's working. On top of that, I haven't played Fortnite in a while. What Fortnite does these days is to, bring constant a player base. They often try to do collabs with really popular intellectual properties like Dragon Ball Z, popular animes. And I think that they're really trying to go hard with, appealing to the youth by doing a Star Trek collab. But I'd be interested to see the actual analytics if people are going to be playing this, because I don't think there's going to be that many kids who are going to be hopping on to play the Kid Cudi Star Trek collab.
Okay, I made a mistake. I thought
agree.
the thing that Kid Cudi was actually wearing in the photo that they used to promote was the actual merch. So that's my bad.
So here's another layer to this weird rabbit hole. When you go to if you went to his website at least a few days ago before this was like officially announced on StarTrek.com, they were saying that like this isn't necessarily in-game footage. It's just promo material. So we don't know if we're actually getting like Star Trek shirts. We're going to get what you see on screen 100%. And it sounds like there's some other items, but it's really not clear. None of this is very clear. It's not like the Star Wars stuff that's in the Fortnite shop. That's a straight promotion and like officially licensed.
That is
I
one
would
ugly
so wear that jacket in real life. I really would.
That jacket is not a flattering cut or style for any body type, unless you want to be a mushroom.
You're not wrong.
And
I'm sorry, guys.
I
I'm
mean,
not riding with the jacket. I would not spend 70, 80 plus dollars, whatever they're asking for that. I would not spend on that jacket.
No,
I
no,
wouldn't
I've
either.
always been a real criticizer of Star Trek merchandise in general. I don't think it's good enough to begin with. And I just think that this is not making it better.
It's very, it kind of looks like an Archie Comics version of a Star Trek jacket, like what you would see in the old
Yeah.
Archie Comics.
Or it looks like to me someone who bought a bunch of patches in order to put them on their new varsity jacket to make them look cool. And that's why I would wear it, is I would wear it and go out and act like a hoodlum.
Yeah, because something like this, you would totally see something like this worn at Volcon in Vulcan, but it would be worn just for the irony of it, not because the person's actually serious.
Yeah, I had a Starfleet varsity jacket, Starfleet Academy varsity jacket, and I really enjoyed that. Compared
Nice.
with this, though, like this is just not the kind of colors that I would typically don.
Yeah,
Oh, is
these
that
are
what
the
the
ones
character
that
looks
like.
like?
Yeah, this
That's
is in
crap.
theory. We're not sure if we're actually getting this in game or not, or if this is just promo material.
It's probably going to be like Kid Cudi is a character, an NPC in the game is going to talk to you and lead you through some sort of mission. If my history playing video games serves me right.
I
And
can
the
believe
best
that.
thing that we could get out of this is a Star Trek skin that you could buy and that would stay in the game forever. I think that's the best that could come of this Fortnite collab. But if they don't even give us an official skin to spend money on, like if I can't be a Starfleet officer in Fortnite, then I think this is lame as hell. I think it's terrible.
This is a good piece of Star Trek merchandise.
What is that? Is that like a jacket?
It's they are literally only produced in Vulcan, Alberta. Nobody else is allowed to have them.
Oh, that's really cool.
Okay.
It's because Vulcan has a special dispensation from Paramount. So, thanks to Leonard
Yay,
Nimoy.
licensing deals.
But
I
honestly,
so
I've
convoluted.
spent forever trying to get a blue science one because it's always blue is medical, medical, medical. And this year they finally had blue science.
How much was that? Did you have to get it online or did you have to like go to Vulcan?
I was in Vulcan because I live an hour away from Vulcan. Like I live in Alberta. So I bought it in Vulcan and I got it. Well, they were having a sale because it was the 30th anniversary. So I got it for like $50, but it's like a really heavy, like, this is a really heavy, like really well-made outfit. Everything's like completely embroidered. None of it's iron-ons or anything. It's all like, it's solid.
That's super cool. Last thing I'll ask, is that Canadian 50 USD?
Canadian money.
Gotcha.
I don't know what the US equivalent would be, to be honest, with the exchange.
Less.
So, because they're produced here, like they're produced from a local, there's a local place that actually puts these things together. So,
okay. Sorry. Last thing I want to say something to you, Eve, before I hop off, because I'm taking up too much of the stream time. I'm going to go back to watching football. Sorry. Earlier you said that, you wondered if Vulcans were able to be gay or be LGBTQ. And I was super interested by some of the evidence you guys brought up. And I think that, in my personal opinion, it's completely logical for Vulcans to explore LGBTQ facets of their society. While Star Trek likes to show us more conservative Vulcans through the Science Academy because they're the kind of assholes who always come to the main characters like, oh, you're not good enough for the fucking Science Academy. But, ever since the beginning of Star Trek, even in Time of Mock, T'Pring preferred Ston over Spock in a quite arbitrary way that she kind of, explained logically. And then also in Voyager, Tuvok had some really profound feelings about his family and the rewards of having a family. And so I think that Vulcan, Ponfar, and all of their relationships and pairing are not purely down to just procreation. I think they do have arbitrary feelings about stuff all the time. And they don't want to share it, obviously, because they're proud Vulcans, but that's just how I feel.
I got one question for you. I have to ask, are you a Zelda fan with a name like Gannon?
So unfortunately, my dad is a complete hick and he does not play video games at all. I think, he was born in the early 70s and at most he played Asteroids and Galaga, but he named me after a football player for the Las Vegas Raiders named Rich Gannon. And there's also a Gannon University in the States. So that's what I was named after. And also because he named me that, everybody called me Ganondorf, and it kind of put me off from playing Legend of Zelda. I played 2 of the games. I really did not like Breath of the Wild. And then I played this one on Game Boy Advance called Link to the Past, and I also thought it was a bit boring. So, yeah.
That's because you played like 2 of the... Yeah, those 2 games are like slow burns.
The worst ones. I hear Ocarina of Time's the best.
Ocarina of Time is considered to be one of the best video games ever made. Nintendo actually had to rebuild the sound engine for the N64 to handle it.
I don't see it. I don't see it right now, but I actually have the Ocarina from Ocarina of Time. My girlfriend got it for me in middle school, and I know how to play the first 6 notes of the Super Mario song. Do 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 do. But that's all I've ever learned on it. But yeah, anyways.
I have
sorry,
it.
you go ahead.
I have the Ocarina and I know how to play it.
Yeah. All right,
Really,
we got to
really
move
cool
on. So
instrument.
Gannon, you're welcome to stay or go back to watching your football.
I'm blabbering, Dustin. I will tune in and maybe join next week, but I feel like I've already taken too much of your guys' time up because I'm hammered. But it was really nice talking to you guys. Thank you so much
Rock
for having
on,
me.
dude. Go Vikings.
See you again.
Yeah, so y'all have a good day. Peace out.
All right. So, I guess I'm going to finally turn this over to Vanessa, who's been making wonderfully funny faces for the last 5 minutes. And we're going to talk about this.
Yeah, so about this week's Lower Decks, we have a title called Parth Ferengi's Heart Place. And about that, we want to ask ourselves and answer it aloud whether this title is getting too obscure. I remember Scott mentioned the reference, but I don't recall it at the moment.
Garth Garenke's Dark Place. It's a UK it's parody TV, I guess, the way I understand it. They just make fun of different genres, and it was like a B-roll thing in like 2004.
It's like CSI, or not CSI, but like ER drama, but parodied. And I didn't know that was what it was called. So are the titles of these episodes getting too obscure for
I think so.
General audiences?
Star Trek has kind of a weird thing about titles. Like you get like the original series, and some of the titles were like fairly philosophical sounding, and then the Next Generation, the titles were pretty straightforward. Deep Space Nine, you strayed again into philosophical. Voyager, they were straightforward. Enterprise, they were extremely straightforward. And now it's kind of like some of them, it's almost like they're, I don't want to say it, but it sounds almost like they're high or drunk when they're coming up with these titles now, because like this one, I was trying to even just pronounce it, and trying to pronounce this, it was like, it just wasn't working. Like
try to pronounce this. This doesn't make any gall darn sense.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
Yeah, like Parth Ferengi, like it makes me feel like I'm drunk and I'm actually sober. So it's like, the titles are, I think that's also why I have trouble remembering the titles, because I can remember, like, there's certain titles you can remember: Best of Both Worlds, Scorpion, Sub Rosa, as much as we all hate it.
And a lot of the episodes on TNG were like The Stranger and The Problem and The Accident and The Outsider. And so that's why I think these longer ones, also they're making references that I think are pretty obscure.
That's the thing. Like,
and also the references typically have something to do with the content of the episode. That I think is really the issue with this particular one, because I don't really see any connection between that show's premise or how it's done in this particular episode. The obscurity I think is fine as long as it has something to do, like there's some connection where it makes sense. But this was just clever wordplay.
I actually then it's not clever because if you can't say it.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just gonna say it's not clever wordplay if you can't say it easily.
What do we think of this spread here for the negotiations?
It was funny because Dustin had mentioned the Delta cookies, and that was like the first note I took was holy cool Delta cookies. I want to make some.
And I was like, shut up and take my money for the charcuterie board. And I know
Yeah.
there's something similar on the official Star Trek store. I don't know if it's exactly this, but there is a board.
I think this is one of the first times we've seen tube grubs. Like what's in the bowl. I'm assuming those are tube grubs.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw them a few times in DS9.
But
there's
did
like
we?
some human food because you got cheese and what looks like baklava.
Why does the cheese look like it's got mold growing on it?
It probably does.
Because
I
cheese
mean,
It probably
typically
does.
have
It
mold
good.
growing on it.
Like it looks like some kind. It made the first thing I thought when I saw the cheese is, oh, Neelix is back to making cheese again.
it's the Neelix cheese.
Spaceship cheese board should be in high demand this holiday season.
I
I
want
freaking
one.
hope so.
I know a
Tube
woodworker.
grub.
I know a woodworker at the craft market I do who could make that happen.
Yeah, the only thing I would want.
I have a,
Go ahead,
ahead.
Vanessa.
oh, what I was gonna move on to another topic ish.
Go ahead.
So you go. What I was gonna ask was, do you guys think that the Admiral was at all prepared for this negotiation? Did they pick the right person to do this? Because he was really confident about walking into this negotiation and being like, yeah, they need our protection because the reason for this application for Federation membership was so that they were protected from this mystery bad guy. So this admiral just assumed walking in that it was going to negotiating with Ferengi was easy. And it's like, do you know who you're dealing with? Like they've been able to sustain peace their entire existence out of negotiating it. So I don't understand why he was so confident.
I
Because he
thought that
had
was
done
all
his
senseless.
research, I think, and he thought that Rom and Lita just were going to be pushovers. You know, a Dabo girl and an idiot, for lack of a better term.
Well, that's true. And I mean, that was brought up in Deep Space Nine about the perception of Dabo girls too. Because remember when Jake was dating a Dabo girl, his dad initially judged her for being a Dabo girl. I forget what her
Right.
name was, but I
Marina?
honestly thought this admiral needed a kick in the ass, because I'm like, if there's one thing about Ferengi, they are expert negotiators, and because they don't really have any pride or anything, they're willing to portray themselves like as absolute morons, for lack of a better term, if it gets you drawn in. Like they are very good at, seeming to be pushovers and easy and this and that when it comes to dealing with humans, but then they go in for the kill. Like
I did want to mention in there, and this picture kind of illustrates it. We had talked previously about the sexism in the Ferengi culture, and just the fact that they have a female, I forget the name of the race, but Mehardu, and that Lita is the
Hugh
first
Pyrian.
clerk, shows a great deal of growth from the Ferengi we knew from Deep Space Nine.
That's another thing I kind of wanted to bring up. Like, how do we get a clear picture of how Ferengi culture had progressed since Rom became Grand Nagus? I'm watching season 5 through 7 of DS9. So many great Ferengi episodes, and I have this to say: this episode did Rom, Lita, Ferenginar so much justice. I don't know. I feel like we kind of glossed over the progress of the civilization to this point, because they're just like, yeah, they're just more progressive now. We just kind of get it in a throwaway line. But I would like to understand, like, this is a huge change from where they were. So,
I mean,
like, from keeping women naked indoors,
isn't.
and then men being the centerpiece and ruling over everybody and everything, to this where they're visually basically on equal footing, like that.
I don't want to be rude to Dustin and Dell as the male people in our podcast, but I agree with you, Vanessa, especially because on Earth, 90% of Earth societies are patriarchal. And how long did it take, and what did it take for women to be given any kind of rights? Women in Canada have only been legally humans for just over 100 years. And I feel like I kind of get what you're saying. Like, I feel like they kind of rushed over it. Like, yeah, okay, Moogie was a mover and shaker, and Lita was definitely a mover and shaker. But realistically, I think considering when Lower Decks is in the timeline, I think it's almost an unrealistic amount of progress because, I mean, and Ferengi men are, their skulls are as thick as their ears. I mean, so they wouldn't have given up easy.
Like forfeiting power on this scale is a massive shift. And I think they could have done a better job of explaining how that is, even in a joking way.
Yeah, because it was too fast. Like, it just makes it seem like all of a sudden Rom marries Lita, becomes Nagus, Moogie wears clothes after, Moogie wears clothes and all that, and all of a sudden Ferengi is now got more equality. Like, it just doesn't. We know from society, from our own history, that people in power, and again, no offense to the male members of our podcast, we know that they don't give up that kind of control easily, and it does not come easy. It's very hard earned.
Del, did you have something to share?
Yeah. The one thing I saw, because I was looking in that topic range, I was looking more for the feminization of men to see if maybe the sexes were a little equal. And there was an advertisement, one of the neon signs that said Purum Avarice. And that's a perfume ad. I mean, it could be a cologne ad, but it looked very feminine. And that's when I was like, maybe there's been a little bit of equilibrium, although I didn't see women as waiters or owning the restaurant. Yeah, there it is. Or like, I didn't see them, except for Lita, I didn't see any of them in employed situations.
Lobes. I'm sorry, the lobes thing just jumped out at me. I'm
only just realizing that the one I've got behind me here, I thought it was all you can fuck, but it's actually all can you fuck. I don't know what that means, but I'm down. I am here.
Honestly, Dustin, I thought it has said the A word, so.
It could be. I mean, it's just a bleeped word. It could be all you can shit. We don't know.
I will say one thing though. I do like Lita's outfit in this one. I mean, with Moogie, she had very much a Loaxana style, like very over the top, very, dripping in everything. But I like Lita's style because, I mean, they could have played her as like putting her in like some sexy thing as clothes because she was a Dabo girl, but her outfit is actually really quite classy. I just wanted to say that because it jumped out at me.
Yeah. So Norman has said, I wanted to see Pell strongly competing with Quarks the Experience. Yes. Pell, like, I understand one of the questions here was about Nog, like that omission being possibly a glaring one, but I think a more glaring omission is Pell, personally. So what do we think Rom's journey to be Grand Nagus was like? Did they, there had to be a massive overthrow and a very quickly resolved peace negotiated between Ferengi themselves. Like, how do you think that was able to happen?
I think Rom is a figurehead. I think he's listening to Lita and Ishka and trusting them because he's always had more of an open mind toward women. What did I say or do?
No, just the picture. Just the picture. I'm a huge Ishka fan. You know that. I love her to death.
You said Ishka, and I was.
But I really think they were behind the throne. I think they were trying to make that point by making Rom look a little stupid, which really bothered me. The whole let's play baseball like that. I didn't find that funny. I felt that demeaning toward the role of Rom and the role of Grand Nagus.
To be fair, though, I will play devil's advocate on the baseball comment. And because the actor was a pro baseball player.
Yeah, I know that.
So I think they were trying to just make a nod to that.
I just thought they again, the admiral would have been better prepared and would have known that there was some kind of tactic like that coming and studied his past negotiating skills, because Rom is not an idiot. He was an engineer and Star. Like, it's just sad that they, cast him like this. Like, not to say, like, I get it in the overall scheme of things, having somebody underestimate you and take advantage of their perception of their perception of you like this. Like, I understand it from that perspective. I just wish this wasn't the way it was done.
So I found it really interesting.
To be fair,
that
I think he is an idiot, but they treated him like a child in this one. That's my problem.
Okay,
he was more depicted as a child.
Infantilizing, yeah. Like, I mean, we know Rom doesn't have lobes for business. We know Rom is not a negotiator. And so I kind of agree with the figurehead thing. It's almost like the monarchy in Canada. I mean, King Charles, or whatever the heck his name is a bloody joke here, because he has no power. He's just the figurehead. But with Rom, like, Rom was smart at engineering, and Rom was smart in that he was willing to change his ways to be with Lita, like giving up his money and everything else and supporting his son and wanting his son to be educated in the Human school and all that. So Rom's not totally dumb, but I think they really did, like, because I have a lot of friends who are disabled and stuff like that. And it's the way they treated him was almost like infantilizing, like what happens to some of my friends. Like, they assume that,
Yeah, it looked like a dependent relationship. That
I don't
agree that I think honestly, Grodenchik's acting has something to do with why Rom comes across that way, and why, and because I don't, this sort of like characterization, I don't think does this character any favors. So to amplify that, to me, just sort of made the worst part of his character the loudest. And that was like, even though I get it, it was a strategy, but we didn't have to watch it for the majority of the time he was on. So do we think that his son Nog not being there was a glaring omission?
I want to go back to a previous question,
Go ahead.
because I was waiting very patiently. The Admiral, at the end of the conversation with, I think it was in the middle. Anyway, when he's talking to Freeman, Freeman says, "Don't forget the 8th rule of acquisition," and then he cuts her off and doesn't let her say what the rule is. And that rule is greed is eternal.
Yep. On the Nog thing, I'm going to kind of throw this out there. It was something I was talking to a few people in Starfleet about this. We were thinking that Nog being omitted might have been because they didn't know how to approach the character, considering Aaron Eisenberg passed not too long ago, and there could have been issues with maybe getting a hold of his family and stuff to see about what to do, rights. Or that, maybe not wanting to have to, whenever an actor who plays a beloved character dies, there's always that sort of awkwardness in how things get approached going forward. So I kind of have to wonder if maybe it was not so much an omission, but more like they didn't really know what to do, or they couldn't get permission from the family in time or something.
But you'd think that they would have some sort of like exosociologist who would know a lot about the races that the Federation has to deal with on the reg. And so couldn't they just send their Ferengi expert rather than Admiral Dollard?
Exactly.
It just seemed really weird.
Well, then the problem is the Admiral.
Nog is he's just out being a Starfleet officer. He's doing what he wants to do. He's made it pretty clear. He doesn't live on Ferenginar. He's just not there. It would have been nice to have even just a throwaway line about him.
Right.
But I don't know. I think it would have been weirder if he'd been there, because he's in Starfleet. He's not in the service.
I thought he would be good for helping the Admiral, not just to be living on the planet. Like that Starfleet called up their only Ferengi person and said, hey, can you help us negotiate this Ferengi thing? The only reason that doesn't work in my head is because, well, he'd be negotiating with his dad. But I still think that was the taste that was missing, was they're sending this admiral who just doesn't care. And they didn't tap Nug or maybe another Ferengi in Starfleet. Maybe Nug started a trend and have them there to help.
There is the Ferengi scientist in TNG in the episode where we find out that space was seeded by one master race. And the Ferengi scientist even says, like, to be a scientist or anything other than a businessman is just not something you do on Ferenginar. Like, so it could be Nog could still be just an outcast to their society.
At this point, though, because they progress so far, yeah, there's is not having Jeffrey Combs come back as Brent a missed opportunity?
That's a missed opportunity, especially where we finished up. The last thing we really kind of saw with Rom is like him kissing Rom's ass, and Quark being like, "Oh well, no, you might actually want to. He's he's connected. He knows some people."
I honestly was hoping to see Brunt. I mean, because Jeffrey Combs has showed up in Lower Decks already, and the actor himself has even said, when it comes to Star Trek, he's like, bang, he's there. Like, he's down to bring back his characters, whatever else. Like, I think, I would have loved to just have like a moment of like Brunt, FCA, like.
Right. I had in my notes, I wasn't sure if some of the Ferengi crew in the ill-fated Lower Decks Ferengis that went out at the beginning, I thought that was both Coombs and Ethan Phillips. I thought we were getting some Ferengi callbacks there, but it wasn't. Nobody of consequence in the voice acting.
I did like the passing reference to Damon Bach. Yes. I thought that was a nice way of just kind of acknowledging other Ferengi we have met. And so, and they did it so flippantly that it was basically lost, but I got it.
Gannon says, very true about Brunt. They can get Combs for this silly supercomputer, but not for Brunt. Yeah, like, to me, that's missed opportunity.
I'm thinking that's maybe why we didn't get him in this one, because we're probably going to get him later in the season as Agamus.
Again?
Yeah, I mean, it was set up. It was kind of set up at the end of last season that, well, not the end, but in last season that we're going to get like Agamus and Peanut Hamper at some point.
Okay, weird thought about this.
Even be as early as this week.
Yeah.
Weird thought about the Admiral. This just literally just popped in my head. The show is Lower Decks. So is this guy a Lower Decks Admiral? Like, maybe he's just, maybe they deliberately sent.
I just can't imagine that
he's
would.
He's a 4-star admiral.
Right. He's a 4-star admiral. And it's like, this is a, an allyship, a connection, a, application to the Federation, which is a huge deal. Like, this is a big, big deal. So if they're going to send somebody, they're going to send somebody far more qualified than this guy. I just think that this was like the best they could do again, apparently. But I don't believe.
Like, Esri would have.
I mean, literally anybody.
No, but I mean, like, to have Esri be like an assistant to the Admiral, like an attaché to the Admiral, because her experience is Dax in general. Like, Dax loved the Ferengi. Dax knew how to get along with the Ferengi, and Dax knew how to manipulate the Ferengi. I mean,
though that goes back to then why not just utilize Nog? Yeah, that's
right.
But that one,
maybe we should skip ahead because we're running out of time.
Yeah, we are.
So, what do we think about Mariner's arc in this? Are we getting tired of her being self-destructive? I honestly thought, like, at least maybe this is a low bar after 4 seasons, but at least they're sort of like aware about it, like. And prompting her to maybe think about why she's resistant to just relaxing into her role, why she's so contrary about it. But I feel like that conversation's been had before. a lot. So at this point, it's like they're just sort of pointing at like a belly button. It's like, yep, it's still there. Like, okay, can we move on and actually dig into what her freaking problem is? Maybe.
She is a stem bolt, and she is not self-stealing.
She's
guess
that's
the
definitely
analogy.
like, it's almost like they've taken the army brat stereotype and taken it too far. Like at this
And
point, it
yeah,
feels a little bit like they're
could
flogging a dead
that could
horse.
go that could go for so many characters within Trek, like Tom
Yeah.
Paris. I mean, it's just boring to just have another rebel without a cause. So
Like they're
was
almost taking her from, they're taking her from almost being like a lovable troublemaker who has a heart of
Mhm.
gold to just being like a stereotype.
Well, like at this point, it's like you have to ask yourself, you've been given a promotion, they believe in your abilities. Like, what is the thing you're so uncomfortable about? Like, what are you so unhappy and cranky about? What's the chip on your shoulder? What's your problem? Like, you're just randomly starting fights. Like, that's obviously indicative of a deeper issue, you know?
And that's kind of the most frustrating part for me, I think, about this episode, that, you know, Quimp asks her that very directly, and we don't get an answer. And by this point in the story, 4.5 seasons in, there should be a very definitive answer coming from Mariner about how to fix herself. Or from
Or at
somebody
least, like,
to Mariner.
recognize what the problem is. Like, what is the issue? Like, what are you so angry about? Like, you have what you want. What's the problem?
Yeah, like
Do
is
you
she a
want to be
Wesley
in
Crusher?
Starfleet?
Like, is she
Yeah.
maybe a Wesley Crusher where she, you know, this is what she thought she should want, and then is realizing this isn't what she wants? Like, I get, like, yeah, she's out of the 4 main lower deckers, she's kind of becoming literally it's literally flogging a dead horse.
Yeah. So cutting the story, I think, would have made sense because it is kind of more of the same. Do we think Boimler binging Ferengi TV was just a convenient way to take him out of the story, essentially? Like, I thought it was entertaining because,
It was.
you know,
It was fun.
it's like an advertisement commercial. But, you know, I thought that was funny, but it's like,
But it
okay,
didn't
he's
really
just
go
not in the
anywhere.
story.
I thought it was funny because of the premise that he had this super busy itinerary and he throws it out for Cop Landlords, which is a show I would watch.
Yes.
I watch
Landlords.
British reality shows where they show up and evict people from their houses. Like, I would watch Cop Landlord in a heartbeat.
If it was real, it would be on TLC.
Oh, absolutely.
Honestly, I seriously now want to have a Star Trek Cop Landlords show. Like, I literally do. Some of those Ferengi TV shows, I'm going like, this is way better than what we're watching.
It was better than most of the very short treks.
Yeah.
So with regard to Tendi and Rutherford, because they had to pretend to be a couple the whole time in order to get their couples experience, which was really over the top. And I thought that was silly, but should they have hooked up by the end? I don't think so. I don't think their relationship is like that.
I think it is. And you see it throughout this episode. There's a whole bunch of times when it's like, they clearly do like each other, but they are both so socially awkward that it just meh. And
I actually don't think that they are sexual. I think this is a very profound platonic relationship. I think they're uncomfortable around romance because, like, this could have been an opportunity for them to explore those feelings, but they didn't. And I think it's because they just kind of like each other's company, and that's it. And like, being physically close with somebody when you're not romantically involved can be very comfortable. It's like, okay, we're not like stressing out about putting a label on this. We're just like buds who are just close, and that's it.
now,
They're
here's
very
the thing.
silly.
This last scene in particular for me is where it really, they're doing this, they're going into this tube and doing whatever they're doing in there just for fun. This is their like chill time.
I like the deltas.
I don't
on the
buy it.
sheets.
This isn't just they work really well together as a, you know, as a work couple. There's
I've had
more to
crushes
it,
on
and they
people that
just
I
aren't
have
there.
no intent of being in a romantic relationship with. And sometimes I have crushes and I don't do anything. I just go, hey, you're a crush. And that's it. So I could see, crush plus awkwardness equals their relationship.
They're both very cerebral too. Like when you think about it, what is their biggest thing? Science.
Yeah, that's the thing that they get excited about, and that's their bond. I think that sort of like takes the pressure off of having it be anything else. I think,
Like-
there's different kinds of connections that you can have with people that involve like some kind of physical touch that are entirely platonic. I think that's what's going on here, honestly.
I have a couple guy friends that we very much would be a Tendy Rutherford kind of thing. Like we're extremely close. People have said, why hasn't or why haven't you? But it's just there. That isn't there. It's just a really tight bond. There's a term, I think it's Celtic, and I'm probably saying it wrong, Amankara, which is literally like the same soul in two bodies. Tandy and Rutherford, I think, are that. Like they both have very similar souls in two different bodies. And so they'll always be like the best of friends, have each other's back, but there's never going to be
Rutherford seems to have like habitually very deep friendships with his, fellow lower deckers. Like I don't see like other than their genders, a massive difference between Rutherford and Boimler, Rutherford and
Rutherford.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, now that I see is to go to Norman's question. I see him and Boimler being the O'Brien and Bashir, but him and Tendy, there's something there. I just don't think either one of them wants to admit it.
Dax and Cisco. Tendy and Rutherford remind me a little bit of Dax and Cisco.
I can see that because there is a little tiny tension there, and Cisco even brings it up once. He's like, "Yeah, sometimes like."
But he would never act on it. She would never act on it. It's just,
right.
That's just the thing I thought about them was it's totally like a, Cisco and Dax kind of scenario.
See, I was thinking we would move more toward the idea of being demisexual. And the fact is that they're just getting to the point where they're comfortable with each other. I don't think that, but I think it would be an interesting way to take their relationship.
At the point of looking like an idiot here, can you kind of define what demisexual is? Because I don't know what that means.
So demisexual means that you have to have some sort of strong emotional connection in order to fuck them.
Gotcha. Okay, I didn't know what it meant. I thought like something. Okay. I thought something completely different. So thanks for that.
So,
I just didn't know.
Speaking of sexual, I guess. What do we think about Boimler's tidy whities?
I mean, I've got this up on the screen, but we want to talk about tidy whities. All right.
You know me. I don't care about the lingerie. I care about the tidy whities because they're not blue.
Honestly, it reminded me of was it the most recent Suicide Squad movie where you have John Cena walking around in his tidy whities? But
I think this uniform, the blanket, the red eyes, the tidy whities is just sort of a uniform for this state of being. I think it's person who has no self-control and has like foregone all hygiene in the pursuit of watching more television. That's what this is giving me. I don't think it's Starfleet. I think it's just gross loner.
Well, we know Boimler's not exactly like Boimler's not very well adjusted, let's just say.
Well, he doesn't have like.
I feel like his undies should be a little bit more Starfleet or something, considering he is Mr. Starfleet.
So like he should have a delta on his undies, just like he has on the bottom of his shoes?
He should be wearing a jock strap with a big delta in the front, I think.
I think what this is meant to imply is like you will, like an addiction like this, you will forego all sense of duty to anything. Like he had a full itinerary of going all around Ferengi to do this tourist thing, and his Starfleet uniform is behind him, draped over, wrinkled. Like, he would never do that normally. So I think it's like he's just foregoing all, just disassociating to the point where he has no sense of anything. Like, he's hypnotized.
And some people do that on purpose. Like, if they really need a break from what's going on in their lives, they can go find a new reality show that they've never watched before and then have to start from the first season. I mean, that's how I got into RuPaul's Drag Race. Was I got really sick. I was in the hospital for a long time. I was like, what am I going to do with my time? And then I was like, that's that drag show I've been meaning to watch.
Gone. But so basically what you're saying, Vanessa, is that we are all one episode of trash television away from this.
Yes. This could be your future if you're determined enough.
You just got to commit.
Yeah, like he's it's like his brain is taking a break from like ambition. Like his character is so driven that it's like, oh my God, there's a way to exist where I don't have to like indulge every, like pursuit. Yeah, and just veg out to, landlords, cops.
That seems like a perfectly the most Ferengi idea for a reality show ever. Landlord cops. And also so 80s and awesome.
I also love how they're very naked about like content being a space for commercials. Like it's meant to keep you glued so that you're advertised to.
I just want to know what happened to Eelsfater. I think that's how they said it.
An Eelsfater.
Yeah, so I wonder what happened to them because they were trying to compete with Sluggo. So even if it was like a giant Sluggo sign and then this little rickety sign on the side and says also Aethelwater.
Okay, more what I want to know is what happened to the jingle for Sluggo Cola.
Yes.
We were told that it's been used for hundreds of years and we didn't hear it once.
Slimiest cola in the
galaxy.
Yeah. Acting Grand Nagus.
Yes. Those are some lobes. I just realized how exaggerated they made his lobes.
He got lobe enhancements.
Wasn't the joke like it gives you lobes or something?
Yeah.
Like Red Bull.
The other lobes that I really liked was the helmet that Mariner got at the bar because it was actually Ferengi ears and like a Ferengi head, and then they had the alcohol in it, like the baseball cap thing.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I thought it was really great that was a Ferengi head.
That's okay. Dustin's backdrop that he shared with us earlier in the week where it looked like he had handlebars on his head. My first thought was, well, that's fitting for a Ferengi episode.
I enjoyed that, like, there was one indication, this was like a scene where there was one indication of progress, where the Ferengi was sort of like trying to de-escalate the situation and saying like, I'm sorry, it was my bad, like fully taking accountability, but Mariner wasn't having it. So it really puts into sharp, like, focus how determined she is to cause a problem.
On the other hand, we've seen how functional her parents are as a couple, so maybe that's where the problem lies.
I was just thinking a couple days ago, like, we haven't seen her dad since like season 2, I don't think. It's been
and he's like completely like absent father much, like.
Yeah. Did seem that way in the beginning. But we don't really know enough about
really get mentioned either. He's persona non grata as far as I'm concerned.
But it was kind of implied too that him and her mother, even though they're married, that they choose to be far apart from each other. Like that was kind of the implication I got, was like, okay, they're a dysfunctional couple.
Well, I mean, in Starfleet though, that dysfunctional can have a lot of meanings, and you end up away from your spouse, so that's just part and parcel to the job. I don't know.
But they seem like they don't even like each other. Because they both were acting like
I know, but
well, they were both acting like Mariner is the other person's problem.
Sure.
Like
yes.
They give off the impression, like he gives off the impression that it's her mom's fault that she is the way she is, and her mom gives the impression that it's the dad's fault she is the way she is. So that's why I'm saying, like, I think like the I think that the family needs like some serious therapy.
So I don't know how much time we have left. Maybe
As
we're
much
over.
as you want to take. Go ahead.
Like, who do we think is the big bad this season? Because we get little like hint. We don't really get much of a hint except their targets.
Yeah, that was weird this week where there's that one Ferengi that's like, oh, I know what's coming. And then he dies too. And it's like, what? Because I'm still going with this is the whale probe people. And I'm even more into that conspiracy theory now because in the poster for the season, you actually see that thing, like just like in the one with the whales. It's like part of that scene with the bridge. I think it's them. But I don't understand what's going on with that Ferengi that had some indication of what was going on. That's weird.
I thought that had to do with like the very beginning where there was some sort of subplot at the very beginning with one of the Ferengi and somebody else, and there was some sort of sabotage about to take place at the start. So that's what that was about. I don't think it necessarily had to do with the ship in front of them. That was.
Oh no, he was sitting in his chair and he said right on time.
Oh.
He absolutely said right on time. That was when I knew that he was in league with the strange ship. He had said one thing and then later when he's in his chair, he says right on time.
Yeah.
And it's mostly attacking Ferengi, and which is motivating them to have membership in the Federation. So that's
which makes sense because Ferengi are cowards. We know that.
Because I'm always wrong. My conspiracy theory is it's time cops. And there's something to do with traveling time. Like either it stopped happening or it happens too often or whatever. But I have this weird feeling that gathering all the races has something to do with it. Like they're collecting them all together.
Like
I'm thinking a rogue element, like a Section 31 type thing. But I always think Section 31, so
what Norman said here, that I think that's coming next week. The next episode, I believe, is a few badgies more. So there's gonna be at least some badgie coming up. And yeah, I'm with that conspiracy theory that Peanut Hamper and Agamus and Badgie are all gonna be in on something here.
The trifecta of evil.
I hope.
Wait, go ahead.
And there we were.
Oh, I just wanted to throw this out there because it's Star Trek related. That bridge that gets blown up in Strange New Worlds, they're literally building a bridge that looks exactly like it right now in Toronto.
Yay!
To be fair, the plans,
Star Trek future.
What's weird, though, is, of course, the plans would have been in development for a few years for something that big, especially in Toronto. So I'm kind of sitting there when it actually made some of the fan pages here in Canada. They were like, really, Canada? Like, seems like a good idea to you. But to be fair, the bridge has been in development. The idea for it's been in development for years, obviously. But it's just funny that it looks it's not dead on.
Also, to be fair, there's
really
also
similar.
only so many ways to make a bridge for a certain situation. So
yeah, but it's going in the same spot and everything. Like it's just
again makes it a spot that makes sense clearly. So that's
Who knows? Maybe Khan's sitting somewhere in Toronto right now in some dingy building.
That would be a good strange ship conspiracy. Is that it's Khan?
Can we stop with the Khan? Khan keeps getting fucking teased for some stupid reason in like every show in the modern era, and I'm not sure why.
What about Spock's brother? What about Spock's brother and
that I want to come back to for sure. But I think that's going to be Strange New Worlds. I don't think they would set that up for Lower Decks.
No, that's definitely more a Strange New Worlds thing. I mean, what does God need with Lower Decks?
The Great Koala. All right. Do we have any last questions that you really want to hit, Vanessa, before we?
I guess I wasn't sure if we could discuss this, but I was curious about Ferengi society, how would it benefit the Federation and Ferengi to join forces other than the protection incentive? Because like there's a lot of things that are antithetical to Federation principles on Ferenginar. Even though they've advanced quite a lot, they still have money. Like their economy, which is central to their culture, would collapse. So I just wonder how that would be mutually beneficial in the long run.
Well, the Federation doesn't interfere with the worlds that are part of their allegiance. So I don't think they would care much about the Ferengi keeping money and doing things, as long as the Ferengi behave.
Yeah, I remember even in DS9, they robbed the Bank of Boleus, and they've mentioned a Bank of Beta's Head before.
Yeah.
So the Federation is just a voluntary, non-binding group, kind of like the UN, but with a little more clout. The worlds still govern themselves the way they want to. You can still have money and all that kind of stuff.
But the exploitative aspect of Ferengi culture would not be able to exist. And that's sort of capitalism in a nutshell. So
Angel One is a member of the Federation, and that's an exploitative culture when you think about it.
They're not a member of the Federation.
No.
They actually bring it up in the episode that they're not.
Yep. No, they had like a diplomatic mission, and they didn't have like contact with them for over 70 years, and that's why they were back there. So yeah, they weren't in Federation. So I wonder, like, similar to like the Orions, they would have to substantially change the way that they treat fellow Orions join. They couldn't be assassins. And they couldn't have enslaved other people or themselves like that. They would, I think Ferengi would still do profit as Federation citizens. Yes, but there's something very exploitative that is core to Ferengi culture that I wonder, how that would be.
Each side has something the other wants. I mean, the Federation has taken a pounding at this point because they've had the Dominion, the Borg, the Cardassian War. They've taken a pounding, so they want member worlds. That was even said in Insurrection, that they were going to admit that
during the war, though, when they desperately needed it.
But. Yeah, but I mean, the Federation has taken, but at the same time, look at the Ferengi. The Ferengi are not what you would consider courageous. They're not what you would consider very capable of defending themselves in a war sense. So for the Ferengi, Ferengi always try to ally themselves with whoever they think is the strongest, because in DS9 they were looking at allying with the Dominion. But at this point, the Federation's beaten the Borg, they've beaten the Dominion, and so for the Ferengi, who does it make sense to want to ally yourself with if you're in trouble? Ally yourself with
I think that may be the strategy that this person that was doing the conspiracy was going for. Like, this is, to draw in Federation allyship as a way to unseat Rom, maybe.
So I've been trying to get this little comment in a couple of times. I really think that, again, crazy conspiracy theory that's probably wrong, but that they're bringing the Ferengi in because they need gap, not to be topical, but they need generally accepted accounting principles. They need someone, maybe it's that like the Federation's starting to go broke or something, and they need accountants to come in, even if it's not for money, but like goods and services and that sort of thing. I could see bringing the Ferengi in because you want them to organize stuff.
I think you're just bringing them in to lessen the chance of like the random break-off Ferengi raider attacks, which was a point I wanted to get to. Vanessa was talking about like slavery and stuff. So there's some conflicting stuff within Ferengi lore. Quark at one point tells us that they never had slavery and war and these mass wars and things that humans have had. But yet we see Ferengi doing slavery, and you can only think, well, all right, so it's not generally accepted by the government, but there's like the outliers and the raiders that do. So
and
I
women.
don't think it's an accepted
Women in-
practice.
I hate to do this. I gotta run, guys, because it's holiday weekend
Yeah,
up here in
we're
Canada.
gonna wrap up. So why don't we just give us your out of 10?
Out of 10, 7. I always like
Fair.
a Ferengi episode, but this one really fell short in a lot of ways.
Fair.
But I'm gonna disappear. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. It was nice to see you
Happy
again.
Thanksgiving.
I'll try
Bye.
and be
Thank
around
you.
a little bit more. I know I've been away a lot, but it was nice
It's
to see you
okay.
guys again.
It was nice to see you. Thank you.
All right. Live long and prosper.
So we want to go around and also announce our out of 10.
Unless you do you have anything else you wanted to get in there before we go?
I guess
It's up to you.
like no.
Okay.
I mean,
Then-
like the confetti, like there's something about confetti devices. And
Oh, so when they go to the hotel, it's very short. When they go to the hotel and they find out they're a couple, the desk clerk pulls a thing and all of these confetti balls. It is the emoji that has it's like a round piñata thing. I don't know. I'm an old person that is broken in half and has confetti coming out of it. Am I crazy? There's the one confetti one that's like a horn with confetti coming out of it, and there's another one that's like a ball that's broken. I'm crazy. Never
I have
mind.
no idea.
I don't think so. I just don't know.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
not
find it.
You should.
I know.
By God.
I just liked how over the top this was, that they just made them the focus of attention to the point where they're like, I think even if they were romantically interested in each other, like this is uncomfortable to have like an entire room of people staring.
Oh, that's definitely is.
Weird. And clapping for this relationship that doesn't exist.
Although the Miggly Moo thing was cute. I thought it was very cute.
Yeah. And was Ransom's pluralization gaffe scripted when both the news and the public was confused about how to pluralize Attorney General?
Because it was this big thing for a while that like
Oh,
politicians were getting it wrong, the news media was getting it wrong, and then finally, I don't know what happened, but
Attorneys
someone was like,
General.
"Hey guys, it's Attorneys General."
LTJR. Let's just call it that.
Yeah, lieutenant junior grades I think would be fine. Lieutenant's junior grade.
Lieutenant's junior grade.
Yeah, that would probably make more sense.
Yeah,
But it's I just
I didn't like that.
yeah, I thought it was the kind of thing that I would sort of agonize over after trying to get something like that right, because I have terrible grammar. 8 out of 10, week 8 with the Mariner story. Fair. Yeah, that's sort of where I sit too. There was a lot about this episode that I found very entertaining. I found the sort of relationship beige service to be just ridiculous. And yeah, I found it entertaining at the very least. And yes, these chocolates, it's just so, it's a lot.
Chocolates were the
Yeah, it's very like Vacation at the Poconos, kind of like heart-shaped bed kind of thing.
champagne hot tubs.
Yes.
Not that I would know.
I mean, I've seen pictures of those like it looks dangerous, where you have like a sort of martini glass and you're and it's like a whirlpool. Is like, how do you not die or fall out? I don't understand. Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah.
So 8 out of 10. There were some weak parts. I thought it was entertaining. Yep.
I have to give it an 8 because the Ferengi are my favorite Star Trek race of all time. I wrote a LARP for all Ferengis that I've never run. That's how much time and effort I put into it. So I have to give it an 8. I do agree the Mariner story, and to some extent the Boimler story, was kind of just set dressing for the rest of it. But it was the Ferengi. It's Ferenginar. I can't give it anything lower than an 8.
Okay. Yeah, this one has taken me a really long time to think about. It's going to take me a minute to explain because I immensely enjoyed this. In my regular review, I gave it more likes and more dislikes than any other episode so far this season. It was just, like Vanessa said, just generally enjoyable. But it also, when you start digging into it and thinking about it, for me, it has problems. The Tendi and Rutherford thing, whether you wanted them together or didn't, it was uncomfortable and weird. The Mariner thing, she's still season 1 Mariner. Boimler, well, that was funny, but yeah, it didn't really go anywhere. And why in the actual fuck would Jack send this Ferengi security to tackle him? Why? What was that? But one high point, outside of Rom being weirdly portrayed, was Freeman finally not messing up her main task in an episode. Usually she's like the A-plot that messes it all up, like in that Vexilon episode earlier in the season.
And
so
she
I
was
really
the
like
one
seeing
to
her.
introduce the rule of acquisition number 8 or number 10.
So I really liked that Freeman didn't look like an incompetent idiot. So that was a thing. And also Vanessa disappearing is a thing. I hope she makes it back in a moment, but I think my final has to be a 6.5 just because of all of those problems. I genuinely enjoyed the episode, but it has too many problems for me to give it any more than a 6.5, I think. So.
You're still muting,
Oh,
babe.
good. No, she's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also thought like the world building was super compelling. The fact that Ferenginar may be or is applying to be part of the Federation. Like, where is this going? And it almost feels like, like a Dominion-ish type of thing that's happening where there's some sort of engineering of like politics afoot. And I'm really curious as to see where this is headed.
What was Eve's score? Did she also give it an 8?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm the odd man out. And that's okay.
Dustin dragging down the average.
All right. Let me get the average. If you guys give me just a second. $7.65. That's I think the strongest.
Are we allowed to
we've come
give
up.
percent? Like, can I give a rating that's 7.65 if I want to?
I guess.
I'm going to do that from
warp.
now on.
Maximum warp of 9.97.
Yes.
All right. Well, do we have anything else we want to touch on before we get out of this already long buffer time?
My hat is ironic. I just want to make
I'm sorry
that
we
clear.
didn't get to any like fun poking at
That's
it
all
today.
right. I was cool with it. I just don't want people to think I mean it for real. It's ironic.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks for Eve for showing up for a while. Sorry Scott couldn't make it. He had some car trouble today. Thank you, Vanessa, for hosting. Always love you in the host chair. And thank all of you for showing up on a Sunday when you could be watching football or going to the Jesus place or whatever. We'll be back here, same time, same Trek channel next week. Until then, live long